Hello and a very warm welcome to Skillsoft presents ETHStudios HRConnect in association with ETHRWorld. I'm your host Hemanshi Tewari, and for this special episode we are joined in by Naveen Narayanan, who is a CHRO at Biocon Biologics. We are also joined in by Sachin, Khurana, who is a Chief People Officer at Happiest Minds Technologies, and of course Divyesh, Sindhwaad, Vice President and Country Head at Skillsoft. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you here today with us.
Thank you very much.
All right, to start with, gentlemen, reskilling has become a buzzword in today's era, and everyone is talking about that. But how do you see reskilling, or how do you see the role of HR evolving in the world of reskilling? Let's start with you, Naveen.
Thank you very much for this. Absolutely, I guess, just the pace of economy or the pace of technology that's there, as well as redundancies of skills that happen. And what we don't realize is that we've always had people doing long careers, and adult education is a common practice that's always been there. It's just that it's become faster and a topic of major discussion. And I guess, if you don't reskill the organization, you're also left a little bit blank, where you're always buying talent rather than building from internal. Now, which doesn't help organizations to a large extent. So a huge topic for sure, and a big priority for everyone.
All right, on that note, coming to you, Sachin, how do you see HRs or CHROs are driving organizational agility in this era of reskilling?
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. I'm from a technology industry, and we've seen various changes in technology over the decades. But I think what has changed is the whole pace. What Naveen was also referring to in terms of the pace of change. The disruptions are not coming after a decade or after 5 years. Disruptions are every second year, and I think what it calls for is sheer agility at all levels. And what was okay, you could have done for like 3-4 days, and look for next level of changes in your organization style, transformation, or your structures need to get, all those changes are happening in every second year. So that's what you're seeing, the organization going through changes every second year or third year. Yeah. And I think that's what it calls for agility. And any organization which is not agile at this point of time in the current environment, I think it's success is really far for them for sure.
Yeah, of course. And on that note, and I'll come to all these points again after talking to Divyesh, because Divyesh, you are from the industry where you are taking care of such reskilling, upskilling, all of these objectives. But what sort of trends do you see in this space from your perspective?
So, first of all, just to add to what Sachin mentioned, I think in my experience, what I'm seeing being in this space is it's an exciting time. To be in HR learning, because with the disruptions that we have recently seen, it's very evident that HR is going to play the most important role of being that Sutradhar who actually, builds that readiness for the organizations to basically capitalize on the opportunities that lie ahead. And in terms of that, I think one of the biggest trends, coming to your question, has been in terms of the buzzwords that we hear about, right? Every forum, every news article, or every research report that we see, AI has been in the forefront. So there's a lot of buzz around AI. Okay, there is also a lot in terms of basically moving away from generic practices in terms of hygiene, providing certain learning solutions, or certain programs, or succession planning and all of that, to basically purposefully driving outcomes. So I think that's a trend that I'm seeing has picked up. A lot of our conversations with our customers today are more focused on business outcomes and alignment to business compared to what I've seen over the last decade or so. And that's an exciting stuff as well, because we can do much more meaningful work to drive the right outcomes for organizations and basically create that impact.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning that point, aligning reskilling initiatives with business objectives. And with that, I want to come to you, Naveen. In your industry, in biotech industry, the roles are too much specialized, right? And there has been acceleration in terms of technological advancements. So when it comes to what he said, balancing or aligning the reskilling objectives, reskilling initiatives with the business objectives, how do you do that? And firstly, how do you see all that happening?
Sure. I guess I'll probably add one point that's there, which is an interesting trend also that people now say is that while digital was led a lot by the tech world or the tech head in any form, call it whatever, people believe that the AI will be led by the HR, the CHRO, because it's a culture change rather than no, that anything else. And so if you have the HR person, in the front seat and understands this, which comes to an interesting place, which is we've always spoken about tech as a replacing people. We were just speaking about this some time back, and if you look at the history of tech, it has never done that, right? It has always aided human productivity, and what we like to call it as a human plus in some form. Right? You look at any history, we've not had swathes of people losing jobs, right? There are mechanisms, social and otherwise, that kind of manage through it. In the world that I come from, in the industry that I come from, people land up having careers for a longer period of time. A scientist, for example, likes to stay on for 10 years to see his experiment through, and so on and so forth. And it's a nature of the industry in some ways. Which then means that people who join us, probably with a bachelor's degree, pretty much a lot of them do PhDs, in the organization itself. And everybody knows to say that if you're not doing some of that, then comes the question of how is the organization enabling some of it? How is it incentivizing it? Are you quick enough to manage it through encouraging it, right? And quick enough to manage it through rewards, recognitions, changes of roles, and those are probably the catch-all in some form. What we also see is that, it's one of those industries where talent is very scarce, and it's not in abundance yet. Sometimes when you also happen to be in the top of the pack, it becomes even more scarce, right? So you are the person who's building it for the industry rather than the other way around. So it partly becomes a bit of a business survival aspect as well, or a competitive edge to a large extent. And that's really how, it's a board agenda for us. I get tracked on it. The board is pretty keen to know, saying that, what are you doing on some of these? And that's the big topic that's there.
Yeah, post pandemic, we have realized actually how HRs have become the strategic business partners of any organizations. And of course, all those HR efforts should be aligned with business objectives. And we are actually going to see this in the coming few years, where CHROs take the center stage, right? They should be the one who should also know about the finance, something a bit about business, of course, about HR. They should be a know-it-all person sitting at the center of the organization, right? On that note, coming to you, Sachin, even for your industry, you are coming from a tech industry. Firstly, how the roles are going to change in your industry, and how are you in terms of, or how can your industry keep up with those changing roles when it comes to reskilling initiatives, and how are you sort of balancing your reskilling initiatives with, of course, the business objectives?
Being in the tech industry, we have to be ahead of the curve from a disruption perspective, and we have to do that very, very conscious as part of our strategy. So as an annual strategy exercise, we have an internal technology council, and that's something that applies for all the industry players, leading players for sure. The charter for them is to really look at the tech landscape and give a perspective on what are the potential emerging disruptions that are coming, that are not even touched now, and what sort of probability of success in some of those, and how should we start investing in building our capability around that. So I think our the whole tech council, or the whole strategic group gives us a view of the future in terms of tech disruption, and that's how an organization like ours build their COE models. They build center of excellence around the digital process automation or IoT in earlier days. Now we're talking about AI and Gen AI. I think this was the reason that we were able to invest in building our capability around the Gen I space early than the others. And I think that's where the whole, the business and technology need to go hand in hand. And when we talk about the internal efforts, while we get a view from the Technology Council, we have strategic partner with, all the large tech companies like the Microsofts and the AWS. We have seen most of the disruption earlier years was led by smaller enterprises who used to come and disrupt the current industry. These days, if you would have seen, any disruption requires huge investment. Just talk about the Gen I. Just to be successful, and we have OpenAI as an example, the kind of investment that they require is enormous. And, you need to have a size and a capability to, invest in those. So I think a lot of disruptions are also coming with these large tech companies who are investing in those emerging areas, and being their strategic partners in experimenting, building use cases goes a long way in helping us build our strategy around the emerging technology. And from an internal capability perspective, I think all our internal learning teams work very closely with the COEs and the tech councils. They already have a roadmap in terms of, okay, let's incubate this technology, let's create a seed team. We have people who will bring in the best of the best, provide, build their learning path for that particular skills, create a core team around it, start building in use cases, challenges, upgrades that are required. So I think very, very intense work. And as Naveen also referring to, this is all tracked at the board level. Over the years that I've seen being in the board meetings, the time that is invested in people areas have increased tremendously. No board meeting goes without spending significant time talking about what are our upskilling initiative, what are our development initiative for leadership, for building capabilities around a new technology, the investment that we're doing in terms of benefits, and how we can make it more flexible. I think a lot of time and effort are being invested by the board members, and they are ready to spend time with the respective leaders to say what they are seeing from other companies or industry, and they provide a lot of insight in those for exercise. So I think while having an internal team, the learning team closely work with the COEs and the tech councils, and the tech councils giving us a projection of how the emerging technologies look like, and building our capabilities around that is something that's working for us, it seems.
I think the bottom line comes back to this, which is, while you can read the tea leaves and say that this is the future, the next step, I guess, everybody looks at is to the HR guy to say, how can you build a scale? How can you build a depth? And how will this be a competitive advantage? Any company which is able to do that at scale and builds competitive advantage is the one that has the edge today. Right? The rest of it is commodity, right? The tech is a commodity, the finance is a commodity, infrastructure around is a commodity. That's there.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for those insights. And before coming to Divyesh, because I want to ask from you, what are those technological innovations, on what are those technologies that companies can implement when they are implementing their reskilling initiatives? But before that, I would like to quickly slip in one question. See, gentlemen, we are talking about employees, we are talking about how AI is changing the roles. But what about CHROs? Are the CHRO roles are going to be redundant, or we are going to see more scale in your roles?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I hope in my lifetime I see some bot doing a CHRO role, right? But I guess in reality, see, this is what will happen, which is everybody knows to say that roughly about 1/3 of the jobs which are repetitive will probably go anyway, keep going to automation, right? The trick, I guess, is in a story that is there, which is when Excel was what came through, let's say 25 years back. People thought that no, it's all accountants will get replaced, right? Everybody who's doing analysis will get replaced. Today, it has become a skill where if you don't know damn good Excel, right, you're not a great accountant or a great analytics person or whatever you do, right? It will become an enabler where if you don't know good technology or how to use it, right, that will become the big disruptor for a person, right? And knowing it and how to use it for your job, right, and how to use it for your role will become the key trick that's there. So I guess we can all speculate in terms of whose job will be there and whose job will go, but I honestly believe that nobody knows it. What we also don't speak about enough is there are plenty of other jobs that are also getting created around it, right? They're morphing into different things that are there. So that's my view, at least, on how it will be.
All right, Sachin, do you agree with him, or do you feel that the human element of CHRO is as sacred?
No, I think it's both, right? So I agree with Naveen first saying that, how CHROs are able to maximize what's available for them, which is primarily technology, innovation, the Gen I, anything that's coming, as they use them as a resource or a tool to be effective in their work. And second is, I think given that more technology coming into our day-to-day life, people become more sacred, more important. And they have to not only work with people, they have to work with intelligent people, because most of the repeated work, the level 1, level 2, level 3 works have been taken care by technology. Yeah. And the people who would be working with in your organization would be working on more intellectual, more sharper work that would be level 3, level 4, level 5. You have to ensure that these people work together, towards the organization goal and obviously their own personal growth. And they do not get overwhelmed with the technology. They also use the technology effectively. And so human element become more critical. So I am rest assured this role not going anywhere. And the whole concept of people become much more critical, because a lot of level 1, level 2, level 3, what you're talking about, level is anyway work taken care by technology, even in people function. And we are seeing that, and we need to ensure that our productivity in our teams increases in line with what we expect that from the technology engineering team, isn't it?
But one interesting or bottom line on this, what he's saying is that I've seen boards or the CEOs ask this, saying human capital management today is about what a human can do and a machine can do. The expectation from an HR person is to saying that, can you tell me both, right? What are the jobs and work, quantum of work that can start getting automated? What are you going to do with the rest of the people, right? It's not about just tell me about the people and somebody else manages the machine, right? That's a big shift for sure.
And that's where the reskilling, the whole topic becomes so critical for us.
Absolutely.
Exactly. No, so to that point, actually, what I'm hearing from both of you is, obviously, as long as there are going to be people, there is going to be HR, which is going to be there. But then the idea is to move up the value chain and do more, sophisticated or high level work, which is more around balancing the HR and human and the technology. How do they come in between, driving those outcomes that the organization wants, going back to the earlier point. Yeah, good. Very interesting insight.
Yeah, very interesting insight. And as they say that humans are going to be sacred forever, right? And of course, CHRO has a human element in it. So the job is not going anywhere anytime soon. Right? On that note, Divyesh, when we are talking about reskilling, when we are talking about training our employees, we also want our employees to be in a safe and secure environment to practice those reskilling things in a safe and secure environment. So how can organizations sort of implement those innovative approaches, and what are those technological advancements that organizations can look at implementing to create that sort of environment for their employees?
Yeah. So this is a fantastic question, and actually builds on the earlier one. Actually, how do you move up the value chain when it comes to building those capabilities and reskilling initiatives, right? Because we've seen over the decades, technology is being used to deploy content and make it available to people. But then what typically happens, and if you look at some research report, about 45 to 80% of what people learn actually gets to scrap learning, leads to scrap learning, okay, which is basically learning that is not applied, and that's a loss for the organization. And that's where I think practice elements are becoming more and more important. Okay, how do you basically bring these practice elements and make it part of the learning ecosystem to drive that level of adoption and comfort in terms of applying on the job in a safe and secure environment. And I think from our perspective, I can talk about what Skillsoft is doing. For example, is using AI to the rescue, right? How can AI today, and AI today does a lot of stuff which wouldn't have been possible a few years back. Okay, so for example, there's something called KC, that we have recently, or not so recently, but about a year back we launched it. And what it does is it's a conversational AI simulator that allows people a safe and secure environment where they can role play on a certain scenario and practice certain components. So whether it is about having a difficult conversation with an irate customer, whether it is managing a job, satisfaction issue with a subordinate, or handling a conversation around, a pay hike, for example. It could be anything for that matter. From customer success to being a better leader to whatever. Okay, it's a safe environment where using AI, you actually go through a role play. It gives you certain, key insights and recommendations based on how you played. Okay, and then you go back and apply it and redo the entire simulation. And that's a different approach to it, and that allows you to be more productive when you're actually implementing it on that. Coming to technology areas, obviously labs have been around for a very long time. That's a practice element that people typically lean on. But then within that, there are different levels which are there. So today, from our Codecademy library, for example, interactive labs is one component. And there are challenge labs where you basically gamify a little bit and create those challenges and all of that. There are certification linked labs which are there, practice labs, what we call. Okay, then there are these, sandboxes which allow you to break and, build something all together in a safe and secure environment. Just by a click of a button, you have access to the most sophisticated systems and software and an actual play around and all of that. So that is what is actually driving the on-the-job performance and productivity, okay, by using the practice elements and making it a part of the ecosystem as part of the learning journey for employees and all of that. And that's going to grow in my mind.
But on that note, Divyesh, you were telling about reskilling, how gamifying and such role playing is helping employees to sort of practice in a safe and secure environment. But before that, a very important question is, and that is for you, Naveen, how to identify the skill gaps. We have various reskilling initiatives, and especially for you, see, you are coming from biotech industry, you have more specialized roles. So how can technology sort of help in identifying those skill gaps?
No, I guess I'll pick from where you left off, which is what has changed, I guess, in the last many years, decades is earlier the view used to be to saying a whole department, or there used to be a concept of a training calendar, and you had you applied it on just anybody and everybody. The biggest difference I think the tech has brought in is today, if you have 5,000 people, today 5,000 people can have hyper-personalized plans to their extent. Again, in past lives, we used to kind of go about doing this where you used to find competencies of each role and so on. And today that comes through an AI scraping tool, right? An AI scraping tool kind of today allows us competitive information. It tells us, for example, we've done this for, let's say, 500 unique roles, where the AI tool is looking at about 40 different data points. It's telling us to saying what is an emerging skill, what is a declining skill, allocates it to each role. So there's a way in which, each role today has different kinds of skills. There are proficiencies that are being suggested by the AI tool as well. There's a fabulous set of curation that the AI tool is trying to provide, which again, go back to his example that is there, which is that in the past, you probably couldn't have had one trainer trying to do 5,000 role plays, saying that all of you come and do a sandbox, I'm going to evaluate you. Today, you have that 5,000 people can go to a tech platform, do that in their own safe space, right? Get feedback, right? And that's really how they're engaging. So if you go back again to the topic of how is tech helping, the tech has made it personalized, tech has made it accessible, the tech has made it easy for individuals, incredibly personalized in terms of, we have tech today, for example, which bases how people are learning, right, in terms of consuming more video content or XYZ methodologies that are there. And it kind of starts customizing it to that particular place. None of this is new because you're seeing this in the consumer world, right? You're exactly seeing this in the consumer world, which is now coming into the organizational world or the enterprise world, right? And that's really the key aspect to it. Today, I think we are having consumer grade experience that is there in an enterprise, which I felt maybe probably 10 years back we didn't have.
Yeah,
right?
basically
And,
CX and EX both should be in equilibrium.
and it is being
right?
carried today on a mobile, which is not enterprise driven, which people are able to probably bring it. I mean, it's almost like they're bringing their own software, their own set of learning. And the organizations are probably catching up a lot more to this. So certainly a huge revelation. I think the core question that still begets is in terms of, from your perspective as well, saying, are people motivated still to learn? How do you get people to know that I have to get reskilled? That I don't know whether the tech can solve it, right? And how, that needs the will of it, right? Is there. You got resources and the skill of it. The will of it is always the
no, that's
the
very
crunches.
interesting part. And for this, I would like to come to you, Sachin. See, you are from the tech world, right? It's changing rapidly, right? The whole tech space, since I know, has been changed so rapidly, right? But when it comes to what he said, are employees motivated? Do you have that sort of culture in your organization? How are you building that culture of resilience and adaptability through these reskilling initiatives?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's important. While on the team here, Naveen also talked about you can create on-demand learning and bite-size and personalized offering, but it has to come from whether the person needs it, right? And that's where the culture of learning plays a very important role. And being in the industry that we just do not have a choice. Just have to ensure that we are learning every day. And then you have the different nuances of culture that plays into this, right? In terms of do you celebrate that learning? Do you celebrate technology? Do you celebrate innovation? Do you incentivize? Do you encourage people? Is your different practice in the organization culminating into that? And for that, for a tech company like us, we have an annual tech festival blitz. I think it's a program that everybody look forward to the whole year. Okay, this is a program where we'll have case studies, showcases, program booths. A lot of innovation, tech innovation is at display. People, whatever they may not have the opportunity to, do that particular, use that learning into a particular client-facing role, but they have that something, wanted to showcase something that they're learning, that built. And I think that's where it just gave that huge platform and this whole recognition program, showcases to people. Then we have, Tech Hub or Manthan, where the people who have done some cutting edge work or, build some new use cases or, create new artifacts around the technological use, they are able to present and create a forum where they present it to a larger forum in person. It's like you have to have initiatives that really makes them feel that, if you do something, you will be celebrated. You are our brand ambassador. We want you to be someone that people should look forward to. All your reward recognition programs, like, we have a program on Learning Champion, Tech Innovator. These are the reinforcement through our reward mechanism that is happening. We are also creating mechanism where the people who are looking at those technology or, doing something out of the normal curve in terms of innovation and learning are able to get, prime time with the leadership. I think those are really looking at well. And then I think while there are many things, one thing that is very, very important piece is, culture is all about leading from the front, and it has to be from the leaders. And, kind of work our leadership presence, like whenever a CTO come and present, talks about the kind of work they've done in terms of the industry, the challenges, then going deep into the Gen I area, the people feel that, oh man, this is the CEO of my business talking about so much of depth in a particular area. It's mind blowing, right? And, when a leader talks about his learning journey, he went through certain interventions, whether it's a behavioral intervention, whether it's coaching, mentoring program that he is going through and talking about his learning, right? And then, another leader is talking about the latest article that he has read or for himself, and he felt, this is what I learned from those. Learning that making people that this is part of their daily habit. If this is part of the daily habit, it has to be part of my daily habit as well. So I think, and then obviously you work with academia, partnership with education. learning in organization, which gives you different ways of triggering those interventions that only helps move that needle a little further. But I think those pieces coming together play a very, very important role in building a culture of learning and agility from a context.
Right. Thank you for sharing those wonderful insights and all those things that you're doing to build that culture of resilience and adaptability. But I would like to come to you, Divyesh. We're talking about so many reskilling initiatives, but if we cannot measure them, then everything is in vain, right? What are those metrics? How do you measure the effectiveness of those reskilling initiatives at Skillsoft, and how are these metrics or these initiatives helping you with the workforce transformation, or helping the organizations perhaps with workforce transformation?
Absolutely. So I think when it comes to measurement, it's always begins with the end in mind, right? That's the mantra for it. There's no other way for doing this. And I would use the analogy like, if you're going for a long drive somewhere and looking at that GPS from time to time to make sure that you are on the right track, that's how the metrics and measurement should be. It cannot be that you reach the end point and then you look back, okay, where have I reached? You have to keep measuring it throughout the journey and all of that. And, and what we are doing in particular, and what I'm seeing a lot of, customers demand, who have been with us for decades and who have been working with us very closely as partners, and all of that is, they are actually looking at moving away from the typical consumption patterns, okay, which is there. How many hours of learning done? Okay, how many people participated? What is my completion rate and all of that? That is aside, okay, and moving to the next level, which is around what is the business impact? What is the outcome that I've driven? And I'll maybe answer this question by using a couple of live examples from some of our customers. I won't name them, but let's say, a customer last year sometime started a journey around women in leadership coaching initiative with us. It's a large organization, okay, and thousands of employees across the globe. And they handpicked about 150 women leaders and said, okay, we want to go through a coaching intervention with them, ICF certified coaches and all of that, 6-month intervention. And the idea was very simple. We want to basically accelerate their career, okay, and at the end of it, what they were able to achieve, okay, and we were able to support there, is in terms of the outcome, over 55% of them really went through a promotion, okay, got a promotion or a movement, a lateral movement somewhere in an exciting new segment, which was more important for the business and all of that. And that is where the proof comes in. Another example that I will use is, and what this reinforces is, there is no one size fits all when it comes to measurement.
Yeah.
Every program or problem statement is unique, and you need to, derive a way to actually measure the outcome for that. Okay, this is with a large SI, okay, system integrator which has over 100,000 plus employees, okay, and their problem statement was, how do I cut down the onboarding? Obviously a lot of freshers are hired, okay, so how do I cut down the onboarding time to productivity for these freshers and have them, and this is a typical case in every organization, every IT organization, services organization would have that, okay. So we actually worked with them very closely. We created a blended learning journey for them, campus to corporate movement, where a part of it is done online using the solution, a part of it is done through office hours, through VILT sessions and all of that, okay, and a project capstone which is mirrored based on the projects that they are going to work on later on after they get onboarded. So that's the level of detailing that we went through. Okay, so out of, let's say, just hypothetically say 100 people, if 4 people are going to work on XYZ project, can I give them a caption for that XYZ project? Okay, and others something else which is relevant for them, and drive that with an SME coming in, okay, and then drive the outcome. And then what we saw is over 99%, there was only one person who didn't get in, got absorbed immediately as soon as they got onboarded, and the overall time period to productivity and billing, the time and material billing that typically happens in that, okay, was shrunk by about 40%, okay. they originally envisaged it will be about 50 plus, but then they got to about 40%. But that itself is a huge saving, because the traditional approach of basically onboarding somebody and then going through the months of training and then putting them in bench, and then it takes time, and that's revenue loss. So measurement would always be, or should always be, I'll just rephrase that, aligned to the business outcome that you are trying to achieve. Okay, and not just looking at those standard metrics. There's no simple way, there's no easy way. The devil is in the detail, but if you don't get in the detail, you don't get the right outcome.
No, thank God you mentioned, saying that even I would be very bored if I was hearing metrics on dollars, time, which are the traditional metrics, and somebody like Skillsoft to come and say this. I think the bottom line we're trying to say is that you're basically building employability at various levels, right? I mean, constantly building employability, and if you can make it faster and you can make it better, always works.
Yeah. On that note, talking about employability, we are building the future leaders in our organizations through these initiatives, right? When it comes to building the future leaders, when it comes to building that sort of employability, of course, technical skills are not the only skills necessary, right? We also need soft skills for that. So how can you in your industry, or how do you in your industry sort of balance the need for technical reskilling with soft skills so that you create the future leaders in your organization? Let's start with you.
I mean, I guess we have to remember that learning is certainly a culture, right? And I have found that every time when you connect learning to something which is growth, something which is performance, something which is, people are able to, as they say, the Aam Aadmi is able to see the connection between, if I learn this, I can get this. That is probably the best way to kind of get people to learn. In that, the levels of programs are, where is the cusp, or where is the big band change that is happening, where people are moving from a technical to techno-functional to the leadership roles. And it goes back to the classic job architectures. It goes back to, where is the skill levels changing, and where do you want to do this ahead of time? Some of the best organizations do this way ahead of time, right? Look at some of the best ones that do talent across industries, right? They do this early, build a pipeline. They are okay to lose a lot of people, but they're very clear to saying that finally whoever comes through, right, is good enough for the organization. Some of the basic ones still work very well, right? I mean, the mentoring, coaching, having a person to job shadow you, right? And some of those classic traditional ones that are there, which if done now in a personalized fashion, right? And that's where the tech kind of comes in play, or platforms like yours that kind of come in play, which is where the social skills are built, or the EQ skills are built. We certainly look at it. I mean, I guess in both our industries, one of the things is that you have people who are very deeply technical, right? And who are people who've not spent adequate amount of their early years in EQ. And there's no harm in teaching people that, right? They're good human beings, but they don't know how to build and how to work this through in a leadership role. We do a lot of those things that are there, and then it's important to kind of teach some of the scientists some of the EQ stuff as well, and make them great leaders over a period of time. So that's really how it is. I mean, I've always found that these peripheral programs are the ones that hold the learning very well, or build organization culture.
Coming to you, Sachin, same question. How do you sort of balance the technical skills with the soft skills while ensuring the employee development in your organization?
Sure. I think Naveen actually covered that. While you're, the core in programs definitely play an important role, and that has to be there. What is working for us, and something that we are investing is that we've seen after a particular point of time, from a leadership journey, you primarily have been a lot on technology. So I think that that's your core, and you keeps on building. I think the leadership skills and the behavioral area, the softer aspect, plays an important role. And we feel, at a leadership level, self-reflection. The more time that you're able to create for them, knowing themselves, their style, their leadership, what works for them, what's their driver, what are their motivators, and help with them in that journey. to know themselves, to preempt themselves in terms of this is how I generally respond, or I can get better in this. This is the way, this is the outcome that I can drive. I think is working well for us, and we see that works at the leadership level. We partnership with the academia. I think the institutes who have, that's their expertise, right? Who've seen what is the need in the industry, and that's also something as leaders look forward to. They need to go out of the work domain. They need to actually reflect, and those partnership with leading institutes helps us craft a program that is customized and suitable for them. And in fact, a lot of programs are coming out which is merging technology and leadership, which are leadership in AI and all that stuff. Something that
we have something to that point, which is coaching for tech leaders.
So I think
that's how it is.
As leaders, they already know where where to press the needle.
Yeah, they have already identified the gap.
And they help us get that move faster.
Yeah.
And I think
There are people who can go through 10, 15 years in the industry who have no possible input in terms of decision making, influencing, managing emotions, managing somebody else's coaching needs, and many such things, right? And they've already probably 15 years in the industry, probably doing very well, right? A star in what they do. And then one fine day they wake up and some HR person will tell you saying, but you have not learned this, right? So it's a larger question that's there, saying that how do colleges and some of the early parts of life also teach you this? And I think we focus a lot on just the IQ, and that's what gets you the big bucks or the gold medal.
More than learning, it's the unlearning.
Unlearning,
People, they have reached that position after whatever worked for them till now, and suddenly you say, no, that's not going to work now. And it's just that accepting takes a longer time. Once that acceptance is there, then the movement is fast. But accepting and unlearning is the most difficult part.
Exactly. And it is also the part of, it's a full circle where we started. Moving up the value chain, I think this becomes more important as you move up the ladder, corporate ladder, whatever you want to call it. Okay, where these other skills, which you call it soft skills, we would prefer calling it power skills, actually help people, deliver the right, value to the organization, because those become more important than the core technology or technical knowledge, whether it is a Biocon or whether it is, Happiest Minds.
Anyway, Jenna is taking a lot of
the level 1, 2, 3 works and all of that. Exactly. So the human element will have to be sharpened a little more.
On that note, Divyesh, you have been a part of so many industries. You've seen so many organizations. You've worked with a lot of industries. What are those key challenges that organizations face while implementing these reskilling initiatives? And how do you sort of overcome them? And how can organizations look at mitigating those challenges?
Yeah, so this is again that money question, right? Because that's where the rubber meets the road. If you ask me honestly, I think it's the way the market operates, to be very honest. And my assessment, being in this space for over 2 decades now, is that most of the solution providers that are there in the market today are focused on point needs, niche areas. Okay, I can do content within content. I can do only leadership, or I can do, technology, or I am, a platform, or an engagement platform, or I do coaching or something like that. But then that makes your lives difficult, right? Because how many people do you work with? How do you basically bring all of that together? So you are left with the task of basically stitching it together and creating that ecosystem. I think the biggest challenge that lies in terms of driving those reskilling initiatives at scale, which are engaging, which are directed towards the right outcomes that the organization is looking for, is in terms of how and what components you bring, because it cannot be one size fits all. I cannot pick up one solution and just deploy it and expect everything to work wonderfully well and give me that right, business results. And that's where I think Skillsoft is going today. Okay, that's where we are going. So we are trying to, diversify, move away from just that content, being a content provider, to basically an ecosystem provider, workforce transformation, holistically look at workforce transformation, and, help organizations in basically consolidating, all their, vendor partnerships and all of that, and bring a sync kind of rhythm, a story, to a method to the madness, if I were to put it. So that's what it is. And I think that lies the biggest opportunity, I will say, not the challenge, but that's where lies the biggest opportunity in front of us.
Actually, being a past user of Skillsoft, and I'm not pandering you because I'm sitting on this conversation. The two things I think that which he didn't say, maybe out of his humility, I didn't say it anything else. One is at the heart of Skillsoft is training, right? Learning, training, whatever you want to call it, just generic term that I'm using. And the tech is the enabler. A lot of the new age ones they start with tech, right? And they're trying to fit the learning training somewhere in between, right? I mean, one day the person is programming something for food delivery, and the next day is programming something for training, right? So you're not thinking training in the heart of it. Yeah. Number two, I guess that's there is that, I've seen Skillsoft help this, which is with organizations, goes back to the business objective side, right? Sharpening, saying, why do you want us, right? It's not just about let me sell you something, but let me also tell you, saying that this is how it should create an impact. Would you like to measure it this way, etc., etc.? And that's where the transformation consulting, if I may call it, kind of comes in play, and so on. So you were being too humble on that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. No.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much for sharing these insights. But as we are wrapping up the conversation, I would want to know from you, Sachin. See, you've been listening to both of them for quite some time, but what are your key takeaways when it comes to this space, or when it comes to the discussion we had? What are your two key takeaways before we end up this conversation?
What I will take away is that I think whatever conversation we're doing on the reskilling and the learning part, I think the more we do, the less it is. Yeah. Right. I think from an organization context, that is taking over any other business conversation. The strategy of the organization lies on top of your learning initiative in terms of your readiness for the next in the disruption that we are seeing. I think the more we are able to align the learning and reskilling programs to the business strategy, the better it is for the whole ecosystem, for the organization who really want to strive and be ahead of the curve from a technology and business outcome perspective. So I think, as I said, the more we talk, the less it is, and the more we are on the ground in terms of implementation, the more effective that we are able to get. And from a culture perspective, while you can have different tools, technology, you need to have learning at the heart from a any service provider or a partner. Learning should be at the core, and culture should be at the core for the organization. While you can do to achieve your tick, number of hours, I've done it, but I think if learning is not part of your culture, and the partner that you're associating, the ecosystem that you're partnering, do not have a learning as their core, or I think then it's not a match that you should aim for. I think these are.
Aligning reskilling with business objectives has been the heart and fulcrum of this conversation till now. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being a part of this conversation. I really enjoyed this conversation a lot. So many insightful views, a lot of interesting viewpoints. Thank you so much. And to our viewers, stay tuned for more such videos only at Skillsoft presents ETStudios, HRConnect in association with ETHRWorld.